Welcome to Impact and Influence, the podcast for real estate business owners and professionals who are ready to make a bigger impact, scale, have greater sustainability, and increase their influence. This series opens the door to the sharpest minds across the industry, including agency owners, advisors, and trusted partners who share real-world insights and lessons learnt. These are short, practical conversations designed to save you time, sharpen your strategy, and help you build a business by design, not by default. If you're responsible for growth, profit, client experience, leadership, recruitment, or retention, this podcast is your go-to for smarter choices and more decisive leadership. It's proudly presented by Regrowth. We are a coaching and consulting business for the real estate arena. We help you build on capability, connection, and curiosity. David Gray, a great client, a good friend, and a human with a beautiful heart. Our first client ever to partner with Regrowth. So it's super cool that today we're sharing our first guest interview on Impact and Influence with David Gray. G'day, Dave. How are you?
Very good, Kylie. Thank you very much. I've loved working with you. Well, still love working with you.
Yeah, I'm not sacked yet. Who's David Gray? What's your backstory?
Basically, money market, hospitality, been in real estate for 25 years, Sydney born and bred, but parents from regional Australia or ties to regional Australia. Came up here 9 years ago, a little bit lost and then found this business and certainly found my purpose and my passion. And I often say, all things real estate. So whether it's auctioneering, investing, developing, building a real estate business, property's my love.
The whole purpose of this podcast is to give context to everybody's journey and us to share that everyone's journey is different and people do things for different reasons. So I don't want to dive deep today into your different business units that you've got, but I want to start with your purpose. You mentioned mum and dad are from regional Australia, and I know that you're really passionate about regional Australia. Tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, I think before it started at regional, I had two mentors that spent a lot of time with me and then other people outside of the industry that have also given back. So when I was developing and making $1 out of real estate, at times it felt quite empty and thankless. And then when I started with 3 people up at Port, it gave me a sense of passion to give back to that team. But now it's got bigger than that. I certainly want to give back to the industry. And from that, regionals, given me a home. So now I really want to give back. I often say that the difference between possibly living in Sydney or regional is the access to mentors or the access to people that you can look up to. Obviously, Sydney's metro is more concentrated. I really now want to give back to our team, the community and our business. And also the property industry because it's given so much to me.
So we're going to talk about mentors and connection in a minute. But there'll be listeners today that will have heard of you, but they may not know exactly whereabouts in Australia you are, what sort of geographic spread that you cover, because that's important for context today around resourcing your leadership team and recruitment. So where are you located? What does the business look like? And what's the sort of spread on the businesses, Dave?
We're from Foster to Brunswick Heads. It's about a 5-hour drive. We're pretty coastal, but we've got some inland of Kempsey, Grafton, Casino, Lismore. It's never been about the offices, but let's say 25 offices and close enough, 9,000 plus managements now. I'm really, really proud. We had a goal to do $1 billion worth of sales volume this calendar year, and we thought that might have been a stretch goal. But we did $940 million worth of real estate in the financial year. So really, really proud of the team. And that's looking at about sort of 1,300 sales.
So let's talk about it for a minute. I know you hate elevating on your numbers in your offices and things like that, but I think it's important. Firstly, congratulations. When you bought the business, how many offices were there and what did the business look like?
The first was Port Macquarie Property Management, which was 3 people and 300 managements. We grew that to 600 nearly within a year. And then I was going to only be in Port 1 day a week and spend the rest of the time in Sydney. I thought I was happy in that life. And then I bought Elders Port Macquarie, probably a team of 25, maybe nearly 900 managements and 70 sales a year. So we've had pretty good growth.
You've had great growth, combination of organic and acquisition. Lots of people ask me all the time, do I grow organically or do I buy? Different strokes for different folks. What advice and what learnings would you give to our listeners on that? And I know that's a big, meaty topic.
I think it's hard to do both, to be honest. I think, there's a lot of business out there that do beautiful natural growth, and then there's people out there acquire. I think it's a different energy. And at times we've had different strengths at different times in your business, but I think you need to know what your strategy is. Ours, it's mainly been acquisition. I know everyone looks at their rent roll as an asset, obviously an investment, but you've got to look at it as an active investment. So I'm always looking at ways that I can actually increase the value. And then once I've increased the value, then obviously I've got a good LVR and then I can go and reborrow. And just like someone that's built a property portfolio, I've treated my real estate rent roll like that, but I'm also an avid property investor. So, I'm always looking. Yesterday, I spent time with Taylor yesterday, like on the A&L, what can we do? What are the little things? Like we're putting a sauna and an ice bath in the motel and just doing little things that hopefully we can, increase the value of 200 grand just by adding a little bit more and a little bit more to the room rate. So I'm constantly looking as an investor, not as a real estate agent owning a real estate business.
So it's like, how do I, do you want to upsell or you want fries with that? So how's it better for the customer? How's it better for your team? And how's it better for the business? What are some of the things, without giving away all your secrets? Are you happy to talk to your Landlord First program and what that sort of means and what it's looked like, or the things that have had a big impact with that scale and growth of revenue and opportunities?
I remember 20 years ago talking about this and not understanding why we have a gap with our relationship with our client. Banks would pay a fortune for the amount of touch points that we have with an owner during the year. But due to our industry, and not just my business, is a breakdown in trust, I think, between us and the client. There's also a breakdown that if we give them a call, they expect that something's gone wrong. There's also a breakdown that if we give them a call, they think we're a real estate agent just trying to sell them something else. We are only 5% on this journey, but I want to change that relationship. I've seen a lot of good people build wealth out of property, but I've also seen a lot of people be spruikers, and it's a big pet hate for me in the industry. So what we're looking to do is build a better relationship with our owners so that from that we can look to advise them and build wealth with them. So we're starting with a first owner's choice. So basically if an investment style property comes up, that we can let them know first. And that's just a little value add. I'm currently writing a book at the moment to actually give that, hard copy to the clients by the end of the year. I won't give you the topic, but just little value adds that we can slowly change. I'm in the uniform now. I've got cargo pants, white shoes. I think if people feel comfortable with the way you look, then hopefully the way you sound and the way you act, we can slowly change that relationship with our clients. But this is an industry problem.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that then. Industry problem. You and I have lots of discussions around this. And I think, sometimes think people are elevated in our industry who are deserving of being elevated. And then other times you and I talk about speakers we might see on stage at things or things that get elevated and then we know what's going on behind the scenes and we're sort of scratching our head. How important is it not to compare yourself in this industry? And how important is it to find your tribe and your mentors and your connection?
I mean, to be really transparent, it's probably one of the hardest journeys for me. Consider myself a different cat and I openly talk to the team about trying to find a place, and I've built a business that feels like home, and I'm very passionate at making sure that our team, depending on who they are, can fit into the team, and we talk about an inclusive culture. Instagram's a killer for this. I look to Instagram and of the like for inspiration, and I've always been driven by a lot of amazing, successful people in the real estate industry. But you do get stuck in comparison. I mean, I've got 2 coaches I spend time with a week just to manage this, because I think when you're driven, it's hard. So I don't know if I've answered that question, but I still feel, like at times, that I'm not enough. And I share that with the team because I think, it's really important. I could get on here and say I've got X amount of offices or do this or do that. It really gets lost that everyone's on a journey. And I think everyone's got their stuff. And I've certainly got plenty of that. I think the positive thing that I could share is that I really share that with my team. There's nothing you could tell the team about me that they probably don't already know. And I share that journey. And I think, no matter who you are and how successful you are, I've been lucky enough to also spend time behind closed doors with a lot of those people. I just went on an amazing study trip over in the States, just got back. Every single one of those guys has got a journey. Every single one of those, guys or girls have got stuff going on. And I think when I started in the industry, I saw myself here and I saw everyone there. As I say, is all I do now to my team is I just show up a little bit harder than you guys. And I just, when something's going on in my life, I still turn up. It's not 100% better. You need to find that 5 to 10% better every day. And over time, that compounds and you'll do okay. And stop not thinking you're enough, because no matter who you are, we all have that.
A lot of us refer to that as imposter syndrome. What I'm going to say to that is the importance of mindset, energy, and back to tribe. So how do you keep your mindset in check? So you mentioned you've got some coaches that help you in that space. How do you help yourself in that, and how do you help your team in that? Because a lot of high performers, they know what to do often. It's this or the imposter syndrome that sneaks in. Any advice on that?
Yeah, one great one is be able to look in the mirror and see exactly what you are. If you're going good, you're an 8 and admit you're an 8, and that's fine. If you're not going good, look in the mirror, and if you're a 2, adjust it. So that really good mirror where some people, think they're a 2, but they're an 8, or some people think they're an 8, they're a 2. So that very good honesty in the mirror, that number that you are then is a really good guide to what you need to do to improve. I think sharing my little journey at the moment, I spend a lot of time with my team. And after going on this study tour, I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of great mates, but they're in Sydney, but they mightn't be from the industry. Personally, outside of coaches now, I'm going to spend more time sourcing people that are in the similar area to me. Often you go to these things or you meet people, but we get busy and then we don't make that effort. You're so close to having a friend for life on some of these trips or study tours, and you don't do that follow-up call in the next week or two. We've all shared nice texts, but I'm going to make an effort this time. There's a couple of people especially that I'm going to really cement those relationships. So I think it's just constantly having conversations with your Kyles and constantly looking at yourself and knowing, you need growth is not more. Growth for me is improvement.
So growth comes, I believe, from feedback from those that matter. So from those that are sustainably successful, those that are happy, got joy. You and I are very aligned on kind humans. Feedback drives high performance and accountability, right? So can we talk a little bit about that and how you have such a great culture? Because I walk into your joint or to an event and you can feel it. It's electric. You've had some great events lately, some great training, or just rocking up in your office. And I'm like, oh, Dave, just feel it. It's so good, right? Culture's our way of being or the feeling. How has that changed, and what have you had to do to be able to give feedback, get feedback, and drive accountability? And how's that affected your culture and your growth?
You got to earn it. You got to show that you care. I'm a pretty direct person, as you know. You can be that when people know that you're transparent, that you're vulnerable, you own your stuff, and you care. I often say to some of the team, mate, it's taken me a while to get to know you, and unfortunately I can't give you the feedback I need to give you because you put your walls up. But we talk about a lean-in culture. If you lean in and work with our team, you will go far. If you push against, you don't. It's really clear. Not arrogantly, but it's proven. And then we have teams that they lean right in. Even, Greg Bates, our number one, it's time where he's leaning in. He's killing it. Then all of a sudden something changes. He'll push against myself or Jake. And then 2 months later, I send him, what size are you? I'll send you an I told you so t-shirt. Now we have a bit of fun with it. But, if you care, you can own it. And also you got to take it yourself. Like, I often, joke, and you'll allow me to be frank, like someone gives it to you, you want to stab them in the throat when you first get that feedback. Like, it's hard. But what we need to do is take a breath. I use it to fire it up. And I have fake little enemies, I won't give too much away, but at the moment I'm getting a little bit of feedback from someone and I'm revving up about it. And Lee, our group GM today, was like, geez, that's really getting to you. And I said, I'm using it to fire me up. I'm going to use it to get better. I'm going to use it to show that person that they don't think they know as much. Now, it's like it's a friendly little enemy of someone that doesn't even know, probably that they've even triggered me with the feedback they got. But, what I say to them, is it serving you? If I give you feedback, Kyles, and then you go and sulk for 2 days, well, what's the point? But if you get it, you might have a moment. But, I think successful people just bounce back quicker. Like a tennis player, they lose a point, bang, they're straight back. Or so we've had some amazing Australian, tennis players, and we all know who they are. And they lose their mind, and they don't just lose the next point; they lose the match. I'm only going to lose a point.
And I think great advice that comes from building resilience. And I think something that we don't do enough of with our teams is resilience training. Something I picked up from what you just said, Dave, is the importance of asking what's important. So basic, what's important to you from our relationship moving forward. You're going to have expectations that you need from your team, and for the business, they're going to have expectations. So coming into relationships with, like you say, that permission to give and receive feedback. But more importantly, if you get permission from someone to hold them to account, take them to places that they never thought possible, then as a leader, you can do that. You can do that stretch, and you can do so many things with your team to have unbreakable resilience. Talking of resilience, what do you think it takes to become more resilient?
The opposite is probably gratitude. I'm happy to share. I lost my brother when I was younger. He lost at 18 months old. You know what I mean? Anyone that's older than that's having a better life, in my opinion, a better life than that. So I know that's deep, but I think that comes from within. If you've got purpose, like I often say, I don't mind a party, and I often say that no matter how much I've loved that world, I've always wanted to turn up no matter what on a Monday morning. Who knows where my life would be if I didn't have that deep purpose for wanting. I think, if you do any personal development work, it comes back down to love, at some level, and we're either lacking in love here or there or whatever that journey on, acceptance. But resilience probably comes from more the beauty than what people probably think, that, you can roll your sleeves up and get into it. I think it comes from knowing that life will get better. So it's more the positive side. Yeah. I don't know if that's too airy-fairy, but yeah.
I don't think it is. And I don't think it's a question we ask enough, because when we have resilient team members and we have a resilient business, we can take on anything. You got accountability, you got culture, you got resilience, and then you've got momentum. Like, get out of the way. The night and day you can put between you and your competition, but the strength that you can get to a team that's working alongside each other and has each other's back. And I've got to say, that's what I've seen with your leadership team. So people always say to me, should I put a GM in? Should I put a head of sales in? Should I put an IT manager in? If we could just go back even 5 years, what your leadership team looked like and what it looks like now and what that journey's been like.
Beautiful. You know me, I'll just derailed for a second. I think just on that resilience, one thing that I think is really important, don't set your team up to fail. If they don't naturally have resilience right now, don't load them up. Be very, very kind on resilience. And the other thing is, you get resilience by you showing up. And I think that's really important. That's what I've learned. The way you make resilient people is not by putting them under pressure. It's by you being beside them, like a soldier, like you're in war with them. Leadership team, it was Hayley, who was amazing. She was my GM. There was just one of us. It was me and her versus the world, and then had an EA. And then that relationship were probably too close. I learned a lot from that lesson. Hales was incredible, but probably too close to Hales as well from different reasons. But that's what I needed back then. And I love what got you there won't get you to there. And that's been a really good guide. I've always hired ahead of the curve. So the leadership team right now, we've got 3 big acquisitions coming up before the end of the year. Our leadership team's already on point. I don't need to put any more leaders to do that. I think if you want to have growth in your business, you need to have capacity in your leadership team. And then we don't always have that right, but we definitely have the right idea around that. And then we grow our leaders and we grow the capacity within the business, which I forget the offices. I hate saying how many offices or managements or sales. The proudest thing I am was I think I rang you, our leadership day the other day. There were 26 or 27 leaders in the room. That's what I love.
Gives me goosebumps when I know your journey and how hard you've all worked and finding the right people. I mean, in particular, you're all tight, but in particular, senior leadership is just, having each other's back, always being aligned to your swim lanes, which I think makes a massive difference for clarity for your team, and ownership and getting shit done quickly for you guys is important. 26 people in your leadership team. What do they all do?
Yeah, to add to that, ego's a killer, yeah? So one, no ego within the leadership team. That is really, really important. Look, we've got a head of every department. At the moment, we've pretty much got now a 2 IC in every department. What I'm excited to bring is that the heads of department get busy in the game and on the business. And Jake won't mind me sharing, but I was talking to Jake the other day and I was saying, well, now look under you with that leadership team. Mate, that's the wage bill that you're now looking after. Forget about the sales team, just in your leadership team. It's a big number. Where do you think you're at with guiding them? He won't mind me 6 out of 10. Okay, look at that capacity with that salary range that we've now provided. That can sound like I'm talking ego. This is just to give the lesson of what that was. We've now just started a committee. So now we've got a PM committee, sales committee. The other word we're looking for is calling them an innovation execution team. We run pretty much a 1-year business plan with a 90-day structure. Now that I&E team or committee, their role is to help the team leader grow and execute the 90-day plan and taking away from the team leader to get that stuff done. So I was like, yeah, I'm pumped. That's only just started. We had our first committee meeting today. That's going to be a game changer in our business.
How important is excellence of execution?
I reckon execution is the key. Some people don't even execute, let alone excellence. So, yeah, that's our big word for this year is to execute. But excellence is what's right for now. It's not getting it perfect, but, 1% growth every week over a year is an insane business. And I think we've talked about that, Kylie. Sometimes I don't want it 10 or 20% better after one of your visits. It ain't going to happen. It's going to fall apart. Make one thing better, Kylie, and I'm happy. I think I've done coaching sessions with you and after 10 minutes I hang up, not because I don't want to talk for longer, but it's like, I've got my lesson. Let's just implement that. So I think if you focus on just getting a little bit better, then a lot better, you'll get a lot better.
So it's a good point actually about eliminating the noise. Like I've got a client I sat with last week, been to 7 conferences this year, losing salespeople from their business, and obviously not going to name names and they wouldn't mind me talking about their business. But something you said earlier is about be present in your business. I said to this leader the other day, I said, you just need to stop going to conferences and spend a bit of time in your business doing some doing and showing up for your people. And when I say they're going to conferences, they're on stage talking a lot, right? So I was like, it's great that you're doing that and that's great for profile and it's good for recruitment, but there's got to be a balance because if you don't make time for your people, somebody else will. So what are you at now, headcount? 240 or something like that? 250?
250, yeah, 250, yeah.
I know you know everyone's names, their family, their kids, all that. How do you manage that and how hard is that to scale now? And what sort of things have you put in place to help with keeping that closeness, but also scalability?
I like to share the vulnerability first. I've been away and I've come back, and I always say I'm not going to do all the office visits, but yeah, I'll be in 5 offices today, and then I'll be in 2 offices tomorrow, and then Monday, Tuesday, I'll be in about 10 offices in those 2 days. But I got sad leaving an office just on the way here because I've lost a little bit of the closeness with them, and I could tell them that they weren't. Hopefully, they don't see the time it is and work out which office it was, but I could see that they're not completely on, and I'm like, when am I even going to get back there? I am close and I really care and I do a lot of office visits to my own detriment. The question, if I was sitting down with that leader is, how can you do what you're doing better? So, I'm going away actually on a holiday in a week and a bit. So holidays tomorrow, I'm going to do a group sales. I'll catch up with them. I'm doing a monthly update with them before then. The key team leaders, I thought there'll be an email saying over the weekend saying, I'm going away on Wednesday. I'm available. Generally, when I'm leaving, I always say, hey guys, I'm away, but you know me, email or text me. I'm not a very good leader like that. I still work when I'm on holidays. I think that's a really good balance part. I've explained that to my partner that I love my work. I've got some things. I'll order breakfast, do a bit of work, but come back for breakfast. Maybe lunch or dinner, I might do the same, but at least one of those meals completely off the table. I've even said around by the pool, well, if you're reading a book, why does it matter? So, but I'm also making sure that I'm very present on that holiday when I need to be. I've gone around in that circle, but I think what I'm trying to say is it's 250 people to be close with every single one of them, and doing what you need to do is really, really hard. It hurts me. I was just on a thing with Holly and I could see her passion, and she's still 5 offices, but she's got a little bit more connection with the team that I'm starting to lose. I'm like, wow, if we go bigger, where am I going to be? But what excites me is we just went to Amazon and Google, and there's great leaders that drive 10,000 people, Richard Branson. So I'm like, what do I need to do to get better that I can still be influential even if I'm not in their office? And all the little things. Like last night, I took 10 of the young guys, 10 under 25-year-old guys out for dinner. We're only there for an hour and a bit. So it's just, what are the little 1%ers I can do?
My favorite question to ask people in our industry, whether it be an employee or employer, if you had to describe one word to connotate leadership, what would be your word?
Serve.
Why?
Because that's our job. We take responsibility. How many times do you see a GM or a manager go, oh, my PM's hopeless. Oh, my sales team. Oh, my admin. Oh, my what? You hired them. You trained them. They work for you. It's your fault.
They're your customer, your internal customer. Richard Branson, to your point, says look after your internal people, and they'll in turn look after your external customer or client, whatever your naming configuration is around it. And you're right, we do hear it all the time. Every time you open your mouth, it's a coachable moment for your people. So, if you're the leader and you're saying it, then that's going to filter down from the top.
Yeah.
From the top.
And we're not perfect. We'll have that bitch. Like that's part of being part of the leadership team. However, we don't leave that meeting without taking responsibility for that problem. That office I just went to, that's my responsibility to now fix it. Now, I've already been on the phone to my GM. Okay, cool. Next week, how can I make sure 2 leaders are going to be there next week? Cool. Taylor, before today's out, I'll be booking a dinner that first week I get back from overseas. So I know that they know that I still care and that I've booked in a dinner with them. So it's the little 1%ers, Carls.
So this is such a granular question, but it's had a massive impact, or I've seen it's had a massive impact on your market share growth, but your ability to get people competent more quickly is your induction, onboarding and your recruitment is tightened up, and it's so far ahead of most of the industry. You have this ethos and a great saying that's, if I give you the very best in training, innovation, coaching, accountability, agency services and marketing and feedback, then let them tie their own shoelaces.
Yeah. And no excuse culture. I call it a no excuse culture.
So I think there's a lot in that, guys, that are listening. Your job's to give them everything. Your job's to serve. But at the same time, if you find out people's purpose, their why, their intent, you get alignment on expectations, you get permission to give and receive feedback. Everyone's got a clear swim lane. They've been onboarded really, really well, and they know what they've got to do, and let them go and do it and give them all those resources. Then you can hold people to account and let them tie their own shoelaces. And Dave, for you, when did the penny drop around that, or when did you feel that you got that really right or could get it right?
It probably goes back to when we're talking about people on stage and the disconnect. This 3X and 10X, sure, maybe they have, but are they burnt out? What do they do behind the scenes? How about the life that they can destroy around them? So, even though occasionally I want to bring our business back to a bit more performance culture, but that's not for everyone. So, hi, Kylie, what do you want to write? What do you want to write? 500. Why? Oh, because I want to. No, but why? What does that mean to you? What does that allow you to do? But you actually don't need to earn that. If you write 300, you can have that. Why do you want to write half? Oh, because I want to. Okay, cool. Or vice versa. I want to write 300. But what do you want? I want to do that. Well, 300 is not going to get you that. So it's just about really working with the team. Like, it's your life. I'm just here to help you along. But I think for too long, this industry has put pressure on people to 3X and 10X. And one, it's only on GCI. Mate, if you buy an investment property 3 years, write 100 GCI less, you're still going to do way better. Do we really care about our team? Or if you're just focusing on 3X, 10X, it's GCI, that's not even profit. Mate, I've won awards going backwards in some of my offices, and that's why, me being here today, if anyone wants to have a real honest chat about, the pressures and the dramas that I mightn't be speaking, so vulnerably into a bigger audience, every day is a fight, but I'm happy to have that fight, but it ain't easy, but I love it.
When I think about this industry, people ask me all the time, who's doing it really well or who's got it really nailed. And I think it's a really good point. We all stuff up and we all make mistakes. But I think from the greatest adversity come the greatest learnings. And the things we don't ask enough at conferences, at study tours, when we go to someone else's office, or we're even talking to someone like you were at Holly this morning from Mornington Peninsula, is what are they getting right? What have they learned? What have they got wrong? Because that's where you get the best learnings. And listening. We say it to salespeople all the time. But as leaders, when do we listen and when do we execute from that? And the best advice I've ever had in running and building businesses is from my people. So asking people from time to time, if you were me, if you were Dave Gray, if you were Kylie Walsh, what would you do? Change, implement, they're on the ground. Do you ever get any good feedback from your guys around that? Or have you got any good strategies around that or things that you've done that we could all learn from?
I mean, that's great. I went to a meeting once with a lady that doesn't work with me now, but she still makes me laugh. And I walked into a meeting and and she goes, "You're always rehearsed, Dave. You already think you know what you got to say." And 90%, you're probably right, mate. But stop. Ask me first. So that was my lesson. So I'd like to share that story because it was pretty funny. I think you've got to generally, if you ask the question, there's a lot of tick boxes now with surveys and try and look politically correct. But do you really want the answer? And are you really going to make a change? So I think generally wanting to know that and speak to them. Try and be ahead of the game. I always say to our leadership team, why send a survey out if we know where our answers are at? I still think we're crap at this. Let's get better at this. Let's get better at that. I think you should know the answers to your questions from a leadership team if you're really, really honest. It's our job to sort of know.
Well, I mean, knowledge is power, but it's even like basic stuff, right? Like prepping for a meeting, like that ex-employee has said to you, and I'm smiling because I think I might have known who that is. But I think it's like when you prep into a meeting and good 101 around leaderships who are developing, the importance of agenda. I was talking to a client yesterday and they sent a meeting request to a young guy that was a sales associate, and they didn't give context to the meeting or what to prepare. And this young kid thought he was going to get fired, and they were bringing him in to actually promote him and say, right, you've done all the right things. Now we're going to make you the second agent. Communication, clarity and preparation. How important?
Well, that's good. I just learned something there, because now if people want meetings with me, I'm asking for agendas, but often I ask my team for a meeting. And even, great learning point, great learning lesson. I'm like, well, I'm the boss, I'm asking for a meeting. But yeah, sometimes I've enjoyed the fact of what they might think or not think. But yeah, I'll start sending more agendas. So that's a nice learning piece for me, Kyle. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, that's the one thing I know I've got you for about 5 minutes after we do something like that. So 2 questions to finish up with, if that's okay. If you had to do it all again, is there anything you'd change or do differently?
Oh, I reckon the best answer, the way to answer that is, we come up with an idea and it's romantic. I'm going to build this, or I'm going to do this. And there's a romance to our decision. I'm going to buy an office here and it will be like this. The romance doesn't exist. The truth, the hard work and the pain will come at some level. So have a really, really strong why underneath the romance. There's people that go, I want to open my own office. Why? I want freedom. One of my favorite stories, a guy, he's still with me now, he'll laugh. And it was a Sunday night. He's like, why? And I'm like, why do you want to leave? Freedom. Okay, mate. Well, no offense. I do enjoy your company, but it's a Sunday night at 7:30 and I'm sitting here in front of you buying you dinner. Where's my freedom? So I think it's really just understanding, having a really core why and a really core understanding that when the romance is gone, do you still want to be there? And I'm not being negative there, because I still love what you do. But if there's not a real core purpose that's going to help you build resilience and go through the good times and the bad times, because it's always a journey. It's not a destination. And that would be the other, when I get in this office or when I get to that, no, that will never fulfill you. Right now, I'm just in love with the game. Like, I've never been so pumped, Carl. I am just fully in love with the game, like absolutely in love with every part. Like tomorrow I got people and culture. I've got these, we've got all these little workshops going on, the digital world after, so fall in love with the game. Not, I want to be, forget number one, forget I want to make X, love the game.
You know what? I think this whole interview, if you don't take anything else away, guys, get clear on your team's purpose. When you align at some point in time, people's intent, purpose, priorities, or why, that's where the magic happens. And if someone doesn't know what their purpose is yet, or what their goal or their why is, then maybe help them with that as a leader. Do some workshops on it. We'll put some templates in today's interview in the show notes that people can download to help with that. But that's critical, right? Like, I'm going to say when I had cancer, Dave, right? Like, everyone had been telling me for years, take time off, exercise. Now, that wasn't as important for me then because I didn't have a why behind it. Now I exercise and take time off so I don't die and I'm here for my kids. So that purpose and that why is pretty bloody strong. So if you don't have a why or a purpose that hurts or is in your gut, is it enough?
Get them excited about your journey, your purpose. Because for some people, their purpose is outside of work. It's their family. It's this. It's their sport. It's whatever it is. But when they come to work, it can be just a job. And maybe they don't want what you have. But if they're excited about your journey, our team are pumped. You know what I mean? Because I share openly. We know where we're going. So I think there's too many secrets.
Yeah, what's the vision? Where are we going? If you want me to follow you, be clear on where you're going, tell me, communicate it, make it simple, and I'll follow you even if out of curiosity. If I'm not inspired by your vision, your why and where you're going, I'm in.
Love it.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much for your time. Just to finish on a couple of things. If you care, you own it. Hire ahead of the curve. What got us to here will not get us to there. I love the one about resilience takes time. And training and educating your teams and supporting them through change management, because often when they don't have all the details or they don't have all the information, they'll make shit up. And, people like you and I that move fast, and I have trouble keeping up with you, we love change. But how much is too much change for the team? How much makes them too fatigued and tired and what erodes trust? Or if they're clear on where you're going, they can understand why the change. So I loved your resilience takes time. Motivate whilst still being close enough shoulder to shoulder, but still being far enough in front to inspire, give the energy and create followers, and no ego in your leadership team. Dave Gray, you're an inspiration. I do not know where you get your energy from, but I'm grateful to be a part of it. And thank you so much for joining us today on Impact and Influence.
Anytime, Carls, anytime. Thanks so much. And anyone can reach out at any time. I'm happy to share. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Impact and Influence. Click follow to get notified about future episodes. Leaving a review helps others find the podcast. And to learn more about our courses, our study tours, conferences, keynote topics, and our services, or how simply we might be able to help support you in taking you to places you never thought possible, please visit regrowthkyliewalsh.com.